Tonight, we dig beyond the headline to unpack some revelations on the person of Nasir El-Rufai and why he is making some strong statement and allegations. I am Abosedi Adenio Adremi, standing in for Nifemi Oguntoye. Now, National Secretary of the APC, Felix Morka, joins me on the program tonight to respond to these weighty allegations coming from a former chieftain of the party. Good to have you join us, Mr. Morka. Nasir El-Rufai has made a prediction about the 2027 presidential election, and it doesn't appear to favor your party. Specifically, he says President Tinubu will at best be third in that election. How do you react to that supposed prophecy?
Prophecy. That's a very very fake as it can get. Prophecy from El-Rufai. I do not know him as a prophet, and assuming he's one, then he needs to go back to sleep and wake up again. You know, see, when mere mortals, humans, people who are just like everyone else, arrogate to themselves the power to see tomorrow and to predict tomorrow. You know, when people begin to do that, that's when you know that they've lost their mind, honestly. And it's really disappointing that someone, you know, in El-Rufai's standing, who was a former minister, a former governor, will descend to this, you know, really, you know, abysmal level where he's lost every, you know, speck of, you know, integrity and seriousness. It's really very sad. And all because of his personal, you know, vendetta that he nurses with, you know, the president, because he didn't get, you know, his appointment as minister. You know, we shouldn't really, as public servants, we shouldn't get to that level where your personal, you know, wishes and whims and caprices overtake reason and rational thinking. Because right now, you know, Malam El-Rufai is not thinking rationally. You know, and in any event, he doesn't speak for Nigerians. He's not, you know, nobody has appointed him as the overseer of the, you know, political consciousness of Nigerians. Nigerians will, you know, in due time, when the time comes, decide for themselves who they support.
Oh, Mr. Morka, Mr. El-Rufai, Mr. El-Rufai is a Nigerian. He, well, yes, he's held some positions as a leader in different capacities, minister, governor, different capacities, really. And then I want to believe also that to some extent, to some degree, he feels the pulse of the people. He interacts with some people, I believe, and he's based some of these points on the performance of this administration. So when you put these points side by side, would you still stick with and to the points you've raised, especially speaking about his person? You know, El-Rufai's arguments are not grounded on facts or reality. I don't think he's looking at, you know, a dashboard of Nigeria, you know, whatever sector you look at, to reach those conclusions. He's simply, you know, sulking from, you know, his own personal grudges. Because anyone who wants to be objective will know that our country has moved on. The train has left the station. We are not where we were. We've moved on and we are headed in a clearly defined direction under the leadership of this president. So, you know, I don't know what measure you want to make that assessment. If it's the economy or any other sector, you cannot come to that conclusion today. You know, look, my point is that El-Rufai is a citizen. He may talk to whoever he chooses to talk to. We also talk to people. So when you take your own experience and your summation or your understanding, and you project that to make the sort of really senseless analysis that he makes, to make predictions that he makes, you know, elections will come. We just finished the by-elections. El-Rufai did not show anything that suggests that, you know, people, even in his own district, support him. We just concluded the local election in Rivers State, where our party again prevailed like we did in the by-election. El-Rufai's party, the ADC, had a no-show. They didn't even perform at all. They didn't show at all. You see, when people have a lot of words in their mouth and don't have the action to back it up, you don't take them that seriously. And I
what
think
if this performance,
I don't take
Mr.
everybody
Morka,
that seriously.
What if this performance is just a building ground? I mean, they're just starting. They're just coming together, getting their acts together, and trying to build a formidable force going into the 2027 elections. And in every democratic system, there would always be opposition trying, working really hard to hold the government in power to account. Don't you think these are the roles that Nasser El-Rufai is at this time playing?
No, he's not playing that role. I mean, come on. I mean, if you listen to his interview and some of his commentary, that's not his role. Look, if you talk about the role of the opposition to hold government, accountable, that is worthy of anyone who chooses to engage in that manner. That is not what El-Rufai is saying. El-Rufai does not speak about what the government is doing or is not doing. He simply, attacks. He attacks without frame. And that's his prerogative. Quite frankly, I couldn't be bothered. If you didn't invite me, I have not done a statement, for example, to respond to him. Maybe I will, but, we're not taking him that seriously because he's not, putting forward to Nigerians any evidence. And it's not enough to condemn the APC or condemn, the outstanding job that the president is doing. That's not enough. Mr. El-Rufai has not told Nigerians what he or his party will do differently to, drive Nigeria in the direction he says Nigeria needs to go. When people speak empty words and don't back it up with any action, look, any right-thinking person will simply dismiss. And I think that's what Nigerians are doing to El-Rufai. His words don't hold any water, and we're not concerned with that emptiness.
But, well, if that's the case, he doesn't seem to be bothered. He continues to speak. He continues to speak what, he believes to be his mind. And one of the points he made is about, a tenure, exactly how it should be. He's talking about 4 years, being inadequate for meaningful contributions to be made, to the society. And he's talking to some members of his own team now to quit the talk around serving for a single 4-year term. How do you respond to that?
Isn't that utterly hypocritical for him to say that? On the one hand, he says 4 years, if it will be, or Rotimi Amechi, is telling Nigerians or are telling Nigerians that 4 years is sufficient for them to govern this country and to turn Nigeria into, that state of El Dorado. He says that's insufficient. But listen, this President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was inaugurated just, over 2 years ago. But the likes of El-Rufai will like Nigerians to believe that the president has not performed by a half mark in 2 years. Yet he says 4 years is insufficient. You see, it just tells you the depth of hypocrisy that, lies in, a man like El-Rufai and his cohorts. Now, let me say this. In that interview as well, he did say that he knows evil when he sees one. And I will say, yes, that's the only thing I agree with him in that entire interview, because truly, he knows evil because he looks in the mirror every day. And, I don't see that as a surprise, because he has mirrors in his home and he looks at it very closely and, there you are.
Well, Mr. El-Rufai, we'll wait to see how, in the coming days, the build up to the campaign, how events would unfold. But then it doesn't appear that, he wants to backtrack anytime soon. He's really forging ahead, driving the coalition. And you made reference earlier to the by-election. You also referred to the local government election which held just, over the weekend in Rivers State. And yes, the APC might have made a sweeping victory, but we also did see the other parties in the opposition try to pull their weight, trying to say that, okay, we're alive, we're kicking, and we're trying to make a difference. Does the APC, feel threatened in some way by the strength coming from the opposition?
Look, a democracy is a competitive, system or government. It's not, a unitary system. It's not an autocracy. It's about competition for the will and the sovereign will of the people. So, APC never takes, its successes, or whether in this past two elections, or in 2023, or for that matter the future elections, we don't take it for granted. We take it very seriously, which is why every day we work hard to get our people ready and to mobilize and sustain their enthusiasm for the party. So look, we don't take that for granted. But at the same time, when you say, are we terrified about, look, there will always be opposition. It's a democracy, and we will respond and compete by delivering good governance and sustainable progress and prosperity to Nigerians. That's what they are saying, which is why we have been successful and they have not, in the last couple of elections that we've had in this country.
Mr. Morka, we need to take a break on the program. We'll be back just after that break to look at some other aspect, of the points that Mr. El-Rufai did make, especially regarding security, or call it insecurity, in Kaduna State. Stay with us, everyone. My guest on the program today is Felix Morka. He is the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress. And we are talking about some of the weighty allegations that former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, made in a recent interview. Now, Mr. Morka, when someone like Nasir El-Rufai speaks, many tend to listen because of his status. He carries some kind of weight. Talk about him as a former minister, a former governor. He's held key positions in Nigeria. And one of the key points he has made also is about insecurity in Kaduna State. He claims that the government, working with the Office of the National Security Advisor, pays a whopping 1 billion naira monthly to settle bandits. When you heard that from him, how did it sit with you, and what is your reaction to it?
Again, look, allegations are the easiest thing to make. You don't need to, think about it. You don't need to rehearse it. You don't need to, present any evidence. You simply allege. But, those who have knowledge of law will always tell you that he who alleges must prove. You don't just make allegations and don't offer any shred of substantiation. El-Rufai can say what he wants, but everyone knows that as governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai was the governor and the merchant of insecurity. Kaduna State has never been more peaceful. Today, El-Rufai, look, under his government, people could barely close their eyes to go to sleep. He presided over a Kaduna State that was, really terrifying. People could not move. Southern Kaduna was under siege of state-sponsored, divisiveness and violence under his watch. Under the current governor, Governor Obasani, we are seeing a new Kaduna State emerge. People living, more freely, more safely, moving about their business as they should. So it's really quite mind-boggling that El-Rufai would today be mounting this sort of attack against a government in Kaduna State that has worked really hard in 2 years to reverse the insecurity that El-Rufai inflicted on his state. I think the people of Kaduna State know better than maybe more people, other people who are elsewhere in the country. They know better. They know that a new day is playing in Kaduna State, and they're happy for it. So whatever El-Rufai chooses to say, and by the way, yes, you're right. El-Rufai will continue to speak because he is filled with that abundance of rage and animosity against this government because of that single, simple, failure to clinch a ministerial position that he sought. But that's not enough to bring down the house. And this was the same man who years ago was all over the place, lampooning politicians that he claimed did not have the center to actually, look beyond their own self-interest to, meet the common good of the people. Now today, he's all about his self-interest and venting animosity. But look, you know what? He's a citizen of Nigeria. He's welcome to continue, but we don't quite care.
Mr. Morka, you know, when you talk security, most times you would hear something about the carrot and stick approach. Could there be some truth, some element of correctness, you know, in the point that perhaps, because we've heard about, for instance, you heard about some form of pardon, you know, for bandits, they lay down their weapons, they are, you know, they are released and then they go about their businesses. So could there be some element of truth or correctness in the point that perhaps government is in itself, you know, funding these people with the hope of battling and you know, tackling insecurity in their regions?
It's easy to second guess, you know, strategic decisions that government and security agencies make, you know, in combating crime or terrorism or banditry. It's very easy to, you know, speculatively second guess them and banalize their effort. But the point is that anyone who deals with, you know, the security system, tackling insecurity, knows that, you know, it's not a one-way street. It's not as simple as, you know, El-Rufai will make it sound. If it was, El-Rufai should have abolished insecurity and handed to his successors a state that was free from insecurity. He didn't. He failed massively on that score. My point is that whatever it is the government of Kaduna State has done to restore peace and security and safety to their people in 2 years, clearly they're doing something different from what El-Rufai did, and they're achieving, you know, remarkable success. Is it yet, you know, I mean, perfect? Have they achieved perfection? No, they have not. Is it possible? Maybe not. Because, you know, even some of the most advanced, you know, countries in the world with the most, you know, the mightiest armies and intelligence systems also grapple with insecurity. So I don't think that it's, you know, expected that in 2 years, Governor Basani, or for that matter, even the President of the Federal Republic, you know, should be expected to completely wipe out insecurity any and everywhere in the country. That will be an unrealistic expectation in 2 years. And as he said, 4 years is insufficient, yet he holds this government to, you know, not attaining perfection in 2 years. That is the whole idea, the whole meaning of hypocrisy.
All right. And of course, you know, the conversation goes on from security, especially considering it is the primary responsibility of every government, the security of its people and the welfare of its people. And, you know, there's just that issue of, you know, talk about some security challenges that are on the rise. You talk about kidnapping, for instance, you know, kidnapping for ransom. The whole banditry thing also is there. And there's one concern also that Nigerians raise about politicizing this issue, because, you know, when that is done, then it's like we're unable to get to the roots, because rather than fight it head on, discussions are just about, you know, just fanning the embers and, you know, just making a noise about it. So what would you, as a chieftain, as a stakeholder, say really about how this government is working to tackle this challenge and help Nigerians sleep with their 2 eyes closed, especially also with support for the armed forces?
You know, I think that security experts and anyone who pays attention to that sector will tell you for free that this government under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has done more to elevate the fighting capacity of our armed forces, our security system to combat, you know, violent crime, terrorism, banditry, kidnappings, etc. They've done more to fund our military. They've done more to provide, you know, modern equipment. They've done more to motivate our, you know, fighting troops across all security sectors. You know, they're doing that. And, you know, let me say this, and I don't think we say enough in tribute to our men and women in, you know, the line of fire, in the front lines, who fight hard every day, put their lives on the line to, you know, keep us safe. We don't say enough because, you know, when the likes of El-Rufai speak, they condemn everybody as though the security forces are doing nothing. I think it's unfair because, quite frankly, some of these people who run their mouth so easily don't have their children enlisting in the armed forces to defend this country. So I think that, we need to at least pay some respect when we speak. And I agree with you. We shouldn't politicize, security or insecurity. We shouldn't do that because, people's lives are on the line and we need to celebrate their courage when they do this. But, having said that, I think that this government is doing its utmost and it's willing and ready and doing more than it has done. And I think that, we simply need to, support our troops, and not give opportunity to these bandits and the criminals to celebrate when, men like El-Rufai come out to, lampoon government, almost literally celebrating the exploits of these, criminals. We can't do that. That's really unpatriotic in all its, finest, ramifications.
I know it would soon be time to, talk about the commemoration of the Armed Forces Day and the emblems, trying to raise some funds, for their families who are left here. But as we wrap up the conversation, there's a question that Nasir El-Rufai asked in that interview, and that is, ask yourself, is your life better now under President Tinubu? Because we know that government, for instance, Mr. Onanuga has come out to speak about, some of the successes that government has recorded, talk about macroeconomy, reserves rising. But then, there is still that concern that the average man on the streets perhaps does not feel it just yet. That it hasn't exactly gotten to that micro level where the average man on the streets can feel the impact of it. So what do you say about that?
That the average man on the streets perhaps...
Look, the record of this government on the economic front is all out for everyone to see. The government is doing an outstanding job. See, renovating a house, if you choose tomorrow to renovate your house, when you begin that program of renovation, it's not pretty. It's never pretty because you must make a mess. The dust must rise to renovate your house and make it more beautiful. This government has been undertaking a vigorous program of renovation of our economy, because problems that were left unsolved by generations of leaders are now being tackled, for the first time in generations. So what do you expect? Like renovating a house, this government had to first take tough decisions, which other presidents before this president will not do, because, it would have been unpopular for them to do so. Just like, it's, somewhat unpopular now to take out fuel subsidy and take out, some of the problems that have beset our economy, like, the dual foreign exchange system we operated. Now, what does that mean? Already, all of the macro indicators are pointing in the right direction. The micro indicators as well are beginning to look good. They're not where we want them to be, but in 2 years, we have, reached the point now, that breaking point, where we have nowhere to go now, but, to go in the direction that serves the interest of the majority.
I've been speaking with Felix Morka, the National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress, and we have been exploring some of the recent statements and claims and allegations made by former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. But that's the much we'll be able to take today on the program. We thank you for watching. Watch a repeat broadcast at midnight and at 6 a.m. I am Abosedi Adeniwa Duremi.